Analyze a deal for wholesaling, fix and flip, and buy and hold without even looking at the properties? Well, first of all, I'd like to give you some rule of thumbs, okay? And then we talk about doing it virtually without analyzing the property. So for wholesaling, my first warning is do not use too much those 70%, 65% rules that they were pretty popular for a while. Everybody seemed to subscribe to those rules. Do not work anymore. Now let's look at why. Say that you're dealing with a $300,000 property. 70% of $300,000, that's $210,000. Really, do you think anybody will take a discount of $90,000 nowadays, right? Most likely it will not happen. I mean, obviously it's easier if it's a $70,000 property to get a 70%. So those percentages can throw the calculations off. My suggestion is if you're wholesaling, your goal is to make at least $10,000 per deal, period. Wholesaling has to move fast. Wholesaling time is of the essence. So as long as you make $10,000 per deal, you should feel pretty happy that you're successfully done a wholesaling deal and move on. So with that said, if the property is $300,000, it sells pretty fast in the area, and the owner is willing to take $270,000, $280,000, and you know you can wholesale it or assign and make $10,000. Go for it, right? Even if technically it's only maybe 10% below what is going to sell for. So wholesaling give more importance about how much you make per deal, not as much as what you are going to, come up with the percentages, because they can throw you off. Now with fix and flip, my rationale is I have to make at least 10% of my final sale price. So if after I fix up the property, I'm gonna sell it for $300,000, I want my profit to be at least $30,000. I mean, I say at least, it could be nothing wrong with having 15 to 20% of the final resale price. So with that said, if I put the property under contract and I am going to fix and flip it, but then I look at my calculations and I'm making only 5% profit, maybe 10, 15,000, I'm just going to wholesale it. Okay, so that's how I make a determination. If I'm going to fix and flip, I have to make at least 10%. And obviously the area must be a good one for fix and flip. If I'm going to wholesale it, then it's $10,000. Now, the third strategy I want to mention briefly is buy and hold. So buy and hold, my rule of thumb, I know there is cap rate, GRM, which is a gross rent multiplier, ROI, NOI, all those nice fancy formulas, which are good once you get into an in-depth analysis. But if I'm out there looking at the property, quick rule of thumb, could it be a good rental? Am I making at least $150, $200 net per door? Then yes. Okay. Now, when I say per door, it means if it's a single family, $150, $200. If it's a two families, $300, and so forth. Now, keep in mind that the more higher end the area and the properties, you're probably going to make less per door. The more the area is kind of borderline, maybe, not the most desirable area, you're going to make more per door. So it's not unusual for you to make $300 to $400, $500 per door in areas that might have a issue, though, as far as quality of tenants and area. So $150, $200 to me is usually in a good, desirable area that's pretty stable. Okay, and that's after you take off for principal, interest, taxes, insurance, maintenance, any vacancy rate, and so forth. So these are kind of the guidelines. Now, another thing I want to talk about, and this is where I say you don't even have to look at the property to kind of estimate the price, is my rule of thumb is how much repairs it's going to take. Now, obviously, if you're doing a fix and flip, you do want eventually to go into a property and look carefully and take a rehabber with you, or 2 or 3, to take a look at what it's going to take. But to put a property under contract, especially if it's out of town, you don't have to go through all this. If you have to also do a wholesale deal where you want to estimate how much it's going to take to fix up the property. You're not going to waste your time going over there with a rehabber for every wholesale deal you're going to do. So how are you going to solve this? Well, first of all, ask the owner. You know, owners honestly know much more than they think or they tell you they know about their property. Number one. Number two, a quick rule of thumb. If it's a light rehab where maybe you just need some painting, some basic flooring, I take about $5 a square foot. If it's a medium rehab where it goes into maybe doing more like electricals, windows, upgrade the systems, maybe put a new furnace, a new AC unit, that's $10 to $15 a square foot. If now it goes into major rehab where you have to put new windows, roof, something structural, that goes anywhere from $20 to $25 a square foot. So if it's 1,000 square foot house, light rehab is $5,000, medium rehab is $10,000 to $15,000, light heavy rehab is $20,000 to $25,000 for 1,000 square foot house. Again, this is basic. Rehab obviously doesn't take in consideration custom cabinets, custom bathrooms. This is kind of run-of-the-mill type rehab. Now, the other thing I want you to take in consideration is that rehab projects are highly subjective. Each one decides, everybody decides what they're going to do to the house. So for you, it might cost you a $10,000 rehab. Somebody's going to look at it and says it's going to be a $25,000 because they're going to do different things to the house or use different quality of materials. So as a wholesaler, when you estimate for the resale value, you do your best guesstimate. Honestly, it's about putting a property out there and see what happens, see what the market is going to do. You know, sometimes you can come very close to what the offer is. Sometimes you might be off, but that's kind of the risk of wholesaling. That's why it goes back to have a good rapport with the seller. And we talked about in episode 2 about negotiating and how to talk to the seller. It's going to be crucial for you to go back and renegotiate if you have to. So this is this episode. Like I said, I like to keep this kind of quick and short to the point with a lot of information in a few minutes. But if you do visit my website at lauraalamieri.com, I will have a link underneath the video. And also you can download the ebook of about the 7 easy steps to close a deal in 3 weeks. You just go to lauraalamieri.com. Also, there is a way to schedule calls with me if you want to get more information about my coaching and my programs. Again, if you go to the website, you scroll to the bottom of the page, there'll be a banner link for you to schedule calls with me at lauraalamieri.com. But anyway, so this is, and I'm going to look here if I have some questions from anybody. So, by the way, thanks, Ruthie, for being here. Yannick, Dan, I know you have followed me for the last few days. We're going to have another episode tomorrow and Friday. So this is kind of a special I'm doing this week, kind of give you a little bit of tidbits of information. But does anybody have any questions? Otherwise, I'm just going to wrap it up for today. And I'll see you tomorrow at the same time at 2:30 Eastern Time. Thank you. Bye-bye.